James Fraser was my friend.
In episode 11, he's really going through it, right? He's mourning Jamie just as much as Claire is, albeit in a different way, but he doesn't have the public cover of being able to mourn that way, right? Like, talk to me a little bit about the push and pull he feels at that point, thinking Jamie's dead, yet having to carry on as he does.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Poor Lord John, because I hope audiences can really relate to John's grief in this moment as much as they relate to Claire's. I think it's easy for audiences to really tap into the grief that Claire's feeling, but this is also a great love that Lord John's been carrying and a huge loss that he experiences. Yeah, there is a real problem with the way that, and tragedy in that way that he can't mourn the way that, and publicly or even privately, that he wants to.
I will not mourn him alone tonight.
You know, we have the episode where Claire and Lord John kind of like act on their grief together and fall into bed. I was talking to Katrina and I said that you guys, the morning after, is such perfection. It's this beautiful blend of like comedy, but also a very tender scene, and you feel like they've reached a new level in their relationship. How much did you guys talk about that beforehand?
There was a lot of discussion. I think Katrina and I had differing ideas about how to play the scene, and also to what extent the intimacy should exist. And there are differences in the way that perhaps I would have liked to play it, and then the way that it finally wound up on screen. But I think what we ended up with was something really interesting. I think whatever we finally negotiated in the end was going to be a very interesting scene, because it is such a weird thing that they're trying to deal with. And what is the tone? What is the like way that we should be feeling after this very like, I guess the only way we can describe it is weird. I guess what I really wanted to take away from it, and I hope still exists in the scene, what audiences take away from it, is a real sort of rawness and intimacy between the two characters, because this is a huge moment of connection and understanding between them. I think we really get to get a great insight into Lord John and his motivations as they exist beyond just his relationship with Jamie, that he is a man that has like thoughts and feelings and a whole universe that exists outside the Frasers. And I think this kind of blows Claire's mind.
I have for many years enjoyed a liaison with the cook at Mount Josiah, an Indian. His name is Minogue.
Just the way that Claire sort of asks questions like she's having her first like real deep conversation with another like gay man. And she says some kind of things that he finds are kind of like, almost amusing to him. Just like, do you have other lovers, or do you have a connection with them? He's just like, yeah, of course. Like, Jamie isn't the only person I'm obsessed over. I'm not just a simp and just someone who's just so fixated on one person. I am a three-dimensional being, and I think she needs to understand that a little bit better in that scene.
You know, Jamie, of course, comes back. And again, not to sound this gong again, but Claire gets to have this big emotional hugging, kissing, happy crying moment with the husband she thought was dead, and Lord John just kind of gets to have his feelings in the corner all by himself.
It's good to see you, John. If only for a moment.
How much of that do you think is building and leading into the scene where he confesses what happened and then he gets hit?
When Jamie arrives back, I think, yeah, we get this moment of complete shock, a whole kind of flood of emotions, actually, that don't really get time to process because we're thrown immediately into another huge revelation and bombshell moment of William discovering that Jamie is his father.
You knew, didn't you?
And then there's a chase scene and Lord John and Jamie like get on horseback and flee the city. Then they finally get a moment of time together and they have to have a breath and talk about what's happened. I think Lord John is very fearful of how Jamie's going to react.
I have had carnal knowledge of your wife.
He doesn't get the nice romance and reunion as Claire. Instead, he gets a brutal beating.
Neither one of us was making love to the other. We were both f***ing you.
Which is a really kind of awful thing for Lord John, that he's done all these things. He feels this way for Jamie, but the way that he's met with those feelings of love and whatever that he's given to Jamie is a brutalization. It's a real indictment of Jamie. I'd like to believe that. I mean, of course, Lord John's not perfect, but I think it's a real indictment for Jamie, at least for Lord John. It's a huge rift in their relationship moving forward.
You're right, it is an indictment of Jamie. I'm Team Lord John on this one. First of all, do you think he actually thought Jamie would hit him? I mean, there's definitely a bracing, but that seems so rough. And then second, the words Jamie uses are so ugly in that scene.
Tell me exactly what happened, you filthy pervert.
Lord John is definitely fearful of Jamie in that moment. I don't think, as much as they have this friendship, I think there is an element to their relationship that still is a little bit kind of not honest, that they kind of skirt around the fact that Lord John, even though they say he is Jamie's friend, he does harbor these very deep feelings for him. And he also knows that Jamie perhaps doesn't really accept him for who he is. I don't know, there is like a central kind of tension between these two of like having this great and profound love, and perhaps Jamie has a love for Lord John too. I'm not going to venture there, but there is sort of an unspoken kind of tension between these two that causes a great amount of fear. And Jamie is a volatile person. He's a phraser. He's known to react with violence to a lot of things. And Lord John, in his experience of being a gay man in his time, is not also a stranger to being met with brutalization for, the way that he feels or loves. And so, although it is like a real disappointment, I don't think it's entirely a shock to Lord John. But it is definitely a massive rift that will need to be repaired moving forward.